Buckingham Palace has said King Charles spent a short period of time in hospital today after experiencing the temporary side effects of his cancer treatment.
The palace has confirmed that King Charles's health has worsened. The news came from Sandringham Estate, where doctors have been working continuously. The official statement said, "His Majesty's condition is now under intensive observation." This announcement left many people in shock. As the news spread, rain began to fall softly outside the estate. Reporters gathered behind the gates, and the camera shutters echoed, making the moment feel especially heavy. This is not just a regular update, it marks a significant moment for the monarchy. Sources say the king's private study has been cleared of most documents. His personal diary, which used to be full of appointments, now lies open on his desk with a last entry that reads, "The burden continues." Many people who have followed royal news for years sense that things feel different this time, quieter and more serious. Before his health declined, the king signed one last instruction, a sealed document outlining his wishes if he could no longer perform his duties. Only 3 people have seen it: Princess Anne, the Archbishop of Canterbury, and Prince William. This letter is now secured in a vault at Sandringham. No one knows its content, but an insider's comment has stirred concern. It changes everything. As the nation waits in suspense, one question stands out. Is this the start of the end for King Charles's reign, or the beginning of something the late Queen anticipated? Stay with us to find out what is happening inside Sandringham and how one father's decision could change the future of the crown forever. The weight of the moment, a quiet crisis unfolds. To understand why Britain is holding its breath right now, we must look back a few months, before today's heartbreaking news struck like a gut punch. It all started small, with a few skipped meetings and unexpected downtime. Nothing seemed alarming at first. Charles had always been a machine, rising at dawn to handle letters and briefings, taking long walks with his dogs, and working late into the night. However, early this year his schedule began to lighten. People brushed it off as brilliant pacing for a man stepping into the role at 73, especially after a queen who served with unwavering will for 70 years. It made sense that his style might ease off a bit. But behind the scenes, doctors were raising red flags. He had been participating in a cutting-edge trial for a targeted immunotherapy designed to combat a sly form of lymphoma, which was kept under wraps as routine check-ins. The location? Addenbrooke's in Cambridge is home to a top-notch cancer team. Very few people knew how frequently he was flown there during the early morning hours to avoid the cameras. Those quiet retreats in the countryside? Often, they were just a cover for getting treatment. Camilla took on the role of gatekeeper, managing everything with great poise. To the public, she projected warmth and stability, but behind the scenes, she expertly controlled access to him, keeping politicians and reporters at bay. An old palace staff member noted that she screened every visitor like a bouncer, and William could only get FaceTime with Charles if Camilla approved it. William, however, quietly started picking up the slack. He began taking on state duties, made more public appearances, and even had private meetings with the Prime Minister. The most significant indicator of the shift? He led the Commonwealth Leadership Forum, a reserved event for the king. The palace put a spin on it, calling it a team effort, but insiders insisted that he wasn't just filling in, he was stepping up. Then there was Anne, who served as the glue holding everything together, seamlessly bridging the gap between the past and the future. It's rumored that she ventured into Elizabeth's private archive at Windsor, a dusty collection that rarely sees the light of day, and retrieved a letter the Queen had written near the end of her life. While nobody is revealing the entire content, one line, reportedly highlighted in her own shaky handwriting, read, "If duty starts to outrun health, let clarity guard the crown." Anne handed this letter to Charles in early September. Sources say he read it twice, placed it down, and murmured, "She always saw it coming." After that, a noticeable change occurred. He became quieter and more introspective. His desk cleared, phone calls reduced, and he spent hours staring out of Sandringham's north windows, the same spot where Elizabeth had signed papers in her early days. That's when the buzz began regarding a sealed note, something Charles had handwritten that laid out instructions for what to do if he could no longer manage his responsibilities. This note was placed in a cedar box under Sandringham Chapel's vault. Only 3 people know its contents. And this morning, they were all in the same room. The pieces are now in place. The crown has not changed hands, but something has. Everything seems to be in place. The crown remains secure, but something has changed. Charles's words may become quieter these days, but his choices resonate with a heavy echo that can't be ignored. The first real indication that something was off didn't come in a grand announcement. It was a small moment, easily missed, caught on camera at a charity event in early September. The king, who has always projected steady grace, wobbled a bit while shaking hands with the ambassador from Ghana. His face, usually warm and vibrant, looked worn, and his voice had a soft edge, as if it carried extra weight. The talking heads on television dismissed it as mere tiredness, but the aides hovering just out of sight knew the truth. Charles hadn't had a whole night's sleep in 3 days. Then, a week later, what was supposed to be a low-key weekend getaway to Sandringham had observers noticing palace cars arriving long after dark. Among them was an unmarked medical van, followed closely by the vehicle of the royal doctor. The press received the usual statement they had been hearing for months. The king's just resting. But rest was the last thing on anyone's mind inside those walls. Anne finally broke the silence, not in front of cameras, but directly to her brother. She found him alone in a small reading room, Elizabeth's letter weighing heavily in his lap. Without any preamble, she said, "You can't outrun the truth forever." Charles didn't respond immediately. He looked up and said, "It's not the truth I'm scared of. It's the hole it leaves behind." That's when Anne understood. He wasn't resisting the end, but trying to shield the family from the impact. By mid-October, he had skipped 4 events in a row. William appeared at Sandringham daily to pick up the slack without complaint. People started to notice. Reporters began using the phrase acting sovereign, treating it like a fact, official or not. It seemed to stick. As for Catherine, she managed the ceremonial duties with her usual grace, but you could see it in her posture, a subtle tension, as if bracing for a wave she wished could be avoided. Then came the call. At 3:24 a.m., William's private line buzzed. A senior advisor was on the other end, his voice steady. 7 words that would change everything. His Majesty's lost full hold on the present. It wasn't the end yet, but it was frighteningly close. In a haze of medication and bone-deep exhaustion, Charles looked at Anne and asked, "Is Mother still waiting for her big day?" It was heartbreaking, but the repercussions? A constitutional earthquake. A king unable to distinguish yesterday from today? He couldn't lead in fog. The palace sprang into action. Doctors' notes were reviewed. Lawyers were consulted. And that sealed letter Charles had kept hidden for months was finally opened. Insiders claim it contained just 1 page. If the mind falters, hand the reins to the Prince of Wales. Princess Anne advising fully. There was no last will, no resignation speech. Just a fresh approach. A king choosing to step back, not for the grave, but for the greater good. Everything was in motion by dawn. Sandringham was sealed tight. A helicopter was heading to Windsor. And Camilla, nowhere to be found. An aide later revealed that she had slipped away in the dead of night. A private flight to Florence to pull herself together, as her team put it. The truth, she had been grappling with this for weeks, not out of a lack of love for Charles, but because stepping back felt like surrendering. In many ways, she wasn't wrong. The transition begins, a crown in motion. To truly understand the delicate situation Britain is facing today, we need to look back a few months before this morning's shocking news emerged. It arrived quietly, like the most unexpected blows do. A few empty slots in the calendar, and some extra time scheduled for the king. Nothing raised immediate alarms. Charles? He's known for his packed schedule. Early morning memos, back-to-back meetings, dog walks, and evening briefings. But this year, his agenda started to thin out. Many commentators attributed this to a sensible slowdown, considering he became king at 73 years old after a queen who maintained a vigorous pace for 70 years. It made sense for him to reduce his tempo. However, behind the scenes, medical professionals were raising concerns. Charles had been undergoing a cutting-edge trial, an advanced immunotherapy aimed at tackling a stubborn form of lymphoma, disguised as just routine checkups. The treatment took place at Addenbrooke's Hospital in Cambridge, a leader in cancer treatments. Few knew his early morning helicopter trips, hidden from the public eye. Those pastoral pauses? Often they were covered for clandestine treatment sessions. As for Camilla, she adopted a protective stance, managing the situation herself. Publicly, she remained a steadfast companion, arm-linked with Charles, maintaining a composed demeanor. But behind the scenes, she acted as a gatekeeper, filtering politicians and press to monitor what was shared. An insider revealed that she scrutinized every visitor like a vigilant bouncer. William. He was granted access only with her approval. William seemed to step into his expanded role without causing any disturbances. He participated in state events, attended community appearances, and held one-on-one meetings with the Prime Minister. The key point? He was responsible for the Commonwealth Leadership Forum, the royal family's primary focus. The palace's stance was described as a joint effort, but insiders noted he's not just filling in, he's taking charge. Anne? She served as the crucial link between the past and the future. She ventured into Elizabeth's private space at Windsor, the untouched area, and retrieved a letter from her last days. No one is revealing the entire contents, but one snippet supposedly written in her unsteady handwriting stood out. If duty drifts beyond the horizon of health, let clear light illuminate the crown. Anne brought it to Charles in early September. Those in the know confirmed he read it carefully, laid it flat, and took a moment to reflect, saying, "She always understood the situation." From that point on, things changed. He fell silent, retreating. His desk cleared, the chimes quiet, staring out from Sandringham's north window, where Elizabeth had made her proclamations in the early days of her reign. That's when whispers of a secret document began to circulate. A note written by Charles himself, authentic and spontaneous, that contemplated the question, "Should I pause?" Hidden beneath a cedar chest in the catacombs of Sandringham Chapel, only 3 people knew about the document. And this morning, the same setting, the same deep contemplation. Public and international reactions, a nation in transition. The next morning, the monarchy faced a new situation, not because a king had died, but because a living king chose to step back. This change, while calm, was significant. The British press, often critical of the royals, approached this shift thoughtfully. The Guardian described it as a quiet change in the line of succession. William took the spotlight, not yet crowned, but no longer just the spare. He spoke sincerely from Sandringham, saying, "My father's still our king. I'm here because that's what he wants, not instead of him, but for him." His words connected with people facing similar family issues and gained support from Commonwealth leaders. Camilla stayed silent, while Anne managed details and passed on duties to William. Charles, fragile yet dignified, now spends his days reading letters from the public, showing how to step back gracefully. Visitors stood in respect in the chapel, witnessing a critical historical moment. The royals are not seizing power, they are learning to step back with respect for their roles. William shows that authentic leadership is knowing when to let go. As Britain catches its breath, the crown rests in a son's hands, suggesting a possible new beginning for the monarchy. Behind the scenes, the palace has prepared for the possibility of a king who cannot fulfill his role, offering a gentle glide instead of an abdication. William begins to make daily decisions with Anne, who becomes his close advisor, creating stability for the royal family.